You are now entering the horror sanctum.
Hello, and welcome back to the Horror Sanctum podcast. I'm Jay with Kellen and TJ. And this week, we're going to be chatting about a story of boy meets girl. Girl's actually a robot. And now, on a weekend getaway, shit is hitting the fan. While that's not quite the whole story, you may have guessed we're chatting about 2025's Companion. Spoilers, I've already given you a few. Sorry. Written and directed by Drew Hancock.
And this is another movie that I didn't even know or have on my radar until it came out, which seems to be a theme with new horror. I guess I don't follow the right socials to know what's coming up. But I actually watched this when it came out. And spoilers, it's probably one of my favorite horror movies of the year so far. It may be one of my favorite, period, because of the uniqueness of the story, but we'll get to that in a second. So 2025's Companion comes in at about an hour and 37 minutes, 94% on Rotten Tomato, which is phenomenal for a movie that is in the horror genre. This is a horror drama or suspense, I guess is what you would call it more, but horror nonetheless. Great cast. Let's start there. Sophie Thatcher, she's fantastic in everything I've seen her in, which is only two things, but she was fantastic in both of those, Heretic and then this. And then Jack Quaid from The Boys, he is so good as the villain in this. And if you've seen the previews, here's your big spoiler. He's the bad guy. And that's the twist that I did not see coming, because so many times when you do, what do you call it, cybernetics or androids, when you do movies like that, they are typically the villain. The AI gets to a point where it's self-aware and becomes evil. Not here. The AI becomes self-aware and is more human than the humans. More compassion, more
Rob Zombie just earned $1 for that.
more humor, better humor. But I mean, but she is. If you watch this movie, she's trying to understand why he would be so evil. Like I love you. Why are you being like this? And it is kind of that abusive relationship dynamic, just turned up to 11. We find out about halfway through the film, or maybe a little earlier, that Jack Quaid had actually messed with her programming to kill this Russian guy, so they could take his money. that was the whole scheme. She'll kill him, and then I can shut her off, and we can. Well, she went haywire, killed this guy, and I don't want to deal with it anymore. We get away scot-free. Obviously, that's not what happens. The movie would be very short if his plan went to plan. But Sophie Thatcher plays this role so well, and I think it's because of how expressive and emotional she can get. Same thing in Heretic, when she started the eyes watering and the lip quiver, kind of like, why are you doing this kind of persona that she puts on. She does so well. She's so expressive. It comes out in her voice. It comes out in her facial expressions. And when she's trying to understand why Jack Quaid's character would be doing this, and while she's coming to terms with the fact that she's not human, it's so well done, just in the subcontext of her acting, not just the words, but the way she portrays that character. Like, you really think that she's hurt by this person, and that's always a sign of a great actor, when you feel like there's an emotional connection. And that was another good thing. Jack Quaid's character in The Boys is kind of shrimpish, and he portrays that in this until the twist happens, until you find out that he's the villain. So they look like they would be a couple, because she's kind of mousy, he's kind of, him. so the emotional tension is there when things start going bad. And I like that they did take the twist, and instead of her being the killer, she's still the killer, but not for the reasons that we think. She didn't go Skynet on on
And
this
it's
group
more
of
self
friends.
defense, right? Like almost all the kills were self defense.
Yeah, she didn't kill anybody in this movie intentionally until the end. Spoilers. That's also one of the best kills with the corkscrew when she when she resets him. um, but yeah, this movie is so much fun. Guillermo, I don't remember his name from What We Do in the Shadows.
Harvey Guillen.
Okay, he's in it.
Man,
He's fantastic. Sure, I don't know his name. You could have told me Tomlinson, and I'd have been like, oh yeah, Tom Tomlinson. That's a great. He's not a very Hispanic sounding name, but he's great in everything. He's great in What We Do in the Shadows. He's good in this. We're watching Reacher in the Lee household right now, and he's great as the coroner in that. But yeah, that's the thing that sells this movie so well is the cast is phenomenal. Everybody plays their roles so well. Um, it's just a fun film, and it was one that I watched from start to finish and did not get bored. It moves so well. An hour 37 is perfect for this kind of film. It didn't need to be 2+ hours. It gets right to the meat of everything within the first 15 minutes. Um, and then it kind of turns into a whodunit for about 10, and then who done it, and now it's kind of a survival film. But all that to say, I absolutely loved this movie. I loved it from the pacing in the beginning. I loved it from the style, the acting, just every part of this movie hits for me. To use a term that the youngins use. But yeah, I just thoroughly enjoyed it. This is a movie I'll absolutely watch at least a couple of more times this year, just to bathe in the awesomeness that is such a unique film in the AI genre. But yeah, that's my thoughts. TJ,
Wow.
you?
Wow, I'm impressed. I didn't I kind of thought everybody would probably like this one just because it is such a tight uh it's refreshing. It's not what you expect it to be. The way I thought the marketing, the kind of limited marketing I saw on it, I thought it'd be like a weird slow burn take on like a relationship with a robot, and kind of maybe it goes evil a little too Stepford Wives or something that's already kind of been done before.
Well, and I forgot to mention that she had every right to be evil because she finds out she's just a sex bot,
Right,
which is
right.
100% the first AI that we're ever going to have for human purchase is going to be sex robots.
100%. Well, I mean, every innovation in technology almost starts in the porn industry. I mean, I think that's the first DVDs and Blu-rays was, and 3D Blu-rays, 100% was all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it happens. But if you believe Jack Quaid's character, she's so much more than that, right? that's that's not all that she's for. Um, she's also for murdering dudes and taking their money. That's always a nice plus to your sex bot that you didn't realize was a thing, and then you figure it out. And man, I love the plot of this film, and so much of it plays out, I think, like a relationship, like a play, like just a small, intimate, relational, few characters, basically one setting, except for when she's trying to run away there towards the end. Very similar to Heretic. It's all about the interplay and the interconnections of the characters. Uh, I wish I could have went into this not knowing that she was a robot from watching one of the little mini trailers. I hate trailers. I try and avoid them at all costs. I try and if I go to a movie theater, I try and where I used to want to be there right there for all the trailers, now I try and intentionally miss the trailers but get the movie just because they spoil everything. If I'd have went into this and there's some great dialogue that kind of hints at it uh, between the different characters that aren't robots about her being a robot before you actually get the 100% reveal when they shut her off and her eyes go white, that she is obviously a robot, which happens in the first, 15 minutes of the movie. So it wouldn't have been a major difference, but I do think if you go in not knowing anything about that, it is probably a somewhat better first experience with it. And I do believe a lot of the dialogue and the screenwriting kind of cue you up for that to be a little bit of a surprise. But of course, there's multiple surprises. You don't realize, as you said, Kellen, that really the bad guy is the love interest, is the Jack Quaid character, which I love Jack in Scream 5 as one of the murderers, along with the Honora girl that just won an Oscar, which who could have seen that coming in 2025? Lot of surprises in 2025. But he has that likable but menace thing going, where it's like you want to kind of hang out with him and maybe, watch a movie, have a drink, just chill with this dude, but also he might kill some dudes. And he might have killed some dudes. He's got that edge to him, which I appreciate. Keeps a movie like this interesting. But Sophie Thatcher, man, she can do no wrong. I loved her in Heretic. She is very readily available to just being able to cry on cue and more than that though, just be able to convey so many complex emotions. She's by far the most emotional I mean, she is the emotional center of this film and is so much more human than the humans, as you say. And man, I will watch her in anything after seeing her within a 6 month span of Heretic and this, just a back to back punch of man, she could just be in a room talking with people and be very compelling, and that's basically what she's done, outside of a handful of action set pieces towards the ends of those films. And it's so compelling just to see how she can respond to these situations in a realistic way. And it really sells the believability of this very unreal, uh, hyper sci-fi thriller kind of thing it's it's in the projected near, but we don't know how near future, as so many of these things are. Probably more near than we think. And yeah, I think the runtime, the pacing, all of that was just right in the pocket. You don't want this to be more than 100 minutes, and it's not. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's tight. Just when you're getting a little used to what's happening in a scene, they throw you another curveball. It's like I didn't see the other guy's boyfriend being a robot too. That was kind of a another
I was
shock.
going to touch on him. Lucas Gage, he is low key a great actor too. He was
I've
great.
seen him in something. What has
Was
he
he in
been in?
You? Was he in You? The last season of You?
Was it the last season? He was one of the yeah, he was one of the rich friends.
Yeah. I'll Google it while you're talking. We'll see what else he was in.
Yeah, I've seen him in something. I haven't watched you yet. I know, shocker, but you know, whole seasons of things. It's hard for me to
Oh,
get
he's
into.
he's in The White Lotus. He's in Smile 2.
I've seen him in The White Lotus. That's
Oh,
what,
he
and
was in
Smile too.
yeah, he was in the Roadhouse remake with Jake Gyllenhaal, which I enjoyed.
Yeah,
It's just dumb fun, and it's
yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal. So,
I was Baron Roadhouse too,
well,
with
you
that guy that nobody likes.
know, I think a former host hates him. The
Yeah,
former co-host
yeah,
of
yeah.
the show.
Totally, totally. Anyway, yeah. I mean, I don't know how to break. I did get some Terminator 2 vibes when she's ripping off her skin. It's a little bit of Arnold with the CGI robot hand a little bit. I felt like that was a little bit of an homage to that scene in Terminator 2 where he has to reveal to the scientist that he's a robot kind of thing. But that was a nice little wink without going overboard. And I love that she makes it out and she's the winner in the end because we're rooting for her the whole time. And
And about her making it out, that was something I forgot to mention. She sees herself in the
yeah,
other car, so you can tell this is like a pick and choose kind of model. And I thought that was really cool to show because it's like, okay, obviously she can slip away into the darkness and never be seen again.
right, right. And
Yeah,
yeah, I'd be here for a sequel, but honestly I don't want one because I like something like this just being a tight contained. It ties it up at the end. Yeah, I'd like to be with this character more, but we don't need to be with this character more. Let's just leave it be. Leave it be. It was a good film, tightly done, good suspense. Uh, these screenwriters, as me and Jay were talking off pod, really don't like cops. But between what happens in this one and what happens to the cop at the end in Barbarian that tries to save the day, doesn't go well for the cops in their movies, which is a nice little twist. But what do you think, Jay? Man, you want to add to the love fest?
I mean, I think you guys and whoever's listening already know what I think of the film. I have it here. It came out this week, even though this episode is coming out several weeks later. We actually pushed this one back for a fun interview we're going to do. But I thought it was brilliant. Great writing, same people who wrote Barbarian. Also, I'm sure they're listening. Where the fuck is the Blu-ray and 4K of that? Like, just put it out. It's such a good film. But you guys remember when we watched Barbarian, we thought it was something completely different than it was, right? So they're good at that. And like we were saying before we started recording about her being an android or whatever you want to call it, I didn't pick up on that until the very last time I saw a trailer. I thought he was like holding her against her will, torturing her. I wasn't sure why. And then I eventually saw the last trailer they put out where her eyes went white. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that makes more sense. And I was a little let down, but not after watching the actual movie. Like we've already touched on, great cast. Sophie Thatcher is always great. I met her in Yellow Jackets. We all loved Heretic. Same writers wrote Stephen King adaptation called The Boogeyman, which is on Hulu that she also stars in. She's great in that. She can do no wrong. I'm excited to see. I thought Jenna Ortega was probably our next like big screen queen, but this Sophie's definitely going to give her a run for her money. I'm fine with both of them. But yeah, the trailers just kind of threw me off, which is great. Like I like that. Like we said, like sometimes you don't want to see the trailer before you go into something. You want to walk in blind because it gives you more of an impact. It made me fear AI a little bit more, like the way the world's going now. Like this is something that could very well happen in our lifetimes, and then I have to deal with the thought of, do I get one? Like,
right.
Is it weird? Anyways.
Well, I don't know Lindsay to let you get one of those.
Right. But if you're listening, and you two guys, I don't think either one of you seen Boogeyman, written by Scott Beck and
I haven't yet,
and Brian Woods. They also wrote Haunt, and they also wrote A Quiet Place. But they also wrote 65 with Adam Driver, the dinosaur movie that sucked.
Yeah, I heard that's terrible.
So even it may have been written well, but the final product was not. Anyways, they're amazing. I have their journal when they were making A Quiet Place and Haunt and trying to sell them. Fascinating. Anyways, she's in Boogeyman. They wrote it. Stephen King adaptation. Check it out. My biggest takeaway from this and just this month, I'm so happy that Jack Quaid is getting the attention and work that he's getting, because I think we were all introduced to him on The Boys. I don't know if The Boys started before Scream or not.
It did.
It did, yeah. So that's when we were, me for sure was introduced to Jack Quaid. And I love him in everything. Our buddy Lana saw Novocaine, said it was awesome.
Which is Dennis Quaid's son, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't remember what movie it was, or if I was just spitballing them. If they ever have a movie and they need like a young Dennis Quaid, like just throw him in.
Right.
Like, but I'm very excited to see him taking on these leading roles, and like the Novocaine movie, he's it. Like he's the guy. And this, he's 1A, 1B. But again, just brilliant writing. I look forward to whatever else the Barbarian team comes up with, because they're 2 for 2 right now. It reminded me a lot of Your Next and Ex Machina, is that how you say Ex Machina? Yeah. You combine those two, and that's kind of the same thing, which is my favorite A24 movie. Like I thought about it recently. I'm like, what's my favorite A24 movie? And I think Ex Machina just edges out Heretic just by a hair. Am I the only one
it's a very deep kind of take on AI and very similar principles to this movie.
And Oscar Isaac's amazing in it, and Mad Eye Moody's son. is great in it too. Gleason.
The ending is wonderful. I won't spoil
Yeah,
it.
Kellen, I encourage you to watch that one. Also, I was going to say it earlier, but you're starting to spoil me, bud, because you've watched 2 movies recently that you love that I also love with this and The Menu. You like The Menu so
Shoe's
much.
gonna drop.
I know. No, not tonight, or not this next episode, because we already know if he doesn't like that one, then he's not on the show anymore. But you like The Menu so much, like, do you want to put it in the bucket? You're like, absolutely. So it's in the bucket now. So we'll talk about The Menu at some point too. Which another girl, Anya Taylor-Joy, she's another like rising star in horror right now. That's always spot on. But anyways, I loved it. I wanted to see it in the theater, but I didn't. It came out around the same time as Hard Eyes, I think.
It did.
Very Valentine's Day.
It didn't stick around in the theaters super long.
It didn't, and we mentioned that earlier, and I think that's just because people aren't going as much. If I didn't have Movie Pass and get free tickets from A24, I wouldn't go either. I'm going to go see Death of a Unicorn Sunday morning. I'm excited about that. But anyways, yeah, I mean, we've already said what needs to be said. The acting is great on all accounts. I did hate that one girl, the female friend. She was the worst.
She was unnecessary, I feel like.
Well, she's the one who brought the plan in, right? She was dating Sergey or whatever.
Just about anybody could have been in that role.
Yeah, and they didn't have to make her as rude. I'll use the word rude since we're a family show. She didn't have to be as rudey as she was.
Rudy
that was a little off-putting. But anyways, yeah, so we'll go around and give our rankings, close up shop. I think originally I gave this a 3.5, and I'm going to stick with that. It's closer to 4 than 3, obviously. It's probably like a 3.8. But I think 3.5 is more than fair. It's super rewatchable. Like even today, like when I watched it the first time, I went ahead and wrote this script because I was like, we're going to do an episode on this eventually. So I took my notes, and it's been sitting on my desk forever. And then today when we're sitting here to record, I'm like, I should probably freshen up. And I'm glad I did, because there was things I didn't remember, like the whole cop scene. That's another thing. The cop scene was my favorite scene of the entire film, because the Lucas character, the other android, was just slowly coming in the back, and you couldn't see him at all. And he's like small, and he's like big. Like that was just so, because you knew, because before that, Jack Quaid had put his aggression, because they can change settings. He controlled. We didn't really touch on that either. He can control the Fembot with his phone remote control, and he adjusted her settings, so he made her 40% smart out of 100s, and then when she got the tablet, made herself 100. Anyways, the guy, he upped his aggression to 40, and he's like, fuck it, and puts it at 100.
And then he just started killing everybody.
Yeah, and then the cop catches the stray repeatedly to the face. I love that whole scene. But anyway, just brilliant. But 3.5 for me. Kellen?
Something you said though made me think just about like these up and coming actresses, or these bigger name actresses that are actually taking on horror roles. Horror used to be like TV back in the 80s and 90s, and if you were an A-list celebrity, you either used horror to get into acting, or it was a sign that your career was on the downturn. They used to be the thing where it's like, oh, he's doing TV now. Oh, career didn't kind of go where he wanted it to. Same thing with horror. It was like, oh, they're doing horror now.
Well, yeah, like
their
B
career's on the way
movie horror,
down.
like low budget horror is just like across the street from porn.
Yeah, and that's
like, it really is.
That used to be the thing. It was like it was considered a bad omen in your career if you were going to that. And now horror has become so big and popular that this is kind of like the same thing with television shows. When shows like Breaking Bad and The Sopranos and The Wire started gaining so much attention, actors started realizing, hey, TV's not a career ender, and the same thing's happening with horror, and I love it. I love that recognizable faces are taking on modern horror roles, and this is a perfect example. Somebody like Sophie Thatcher would not have done this movie 20 years ago.
Or it would have been her first movie.
Her career would have, yes, or it could
she
have been
would have denied the existence of later, probably.
Looking at you, Jay Anderson or Aniston,
Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah, my cousin's name's Jennifer Anderson. Is that who you're? My cousin's Jennifer
Aniston. Stupid idiot name for a stupid idiot person. And I hope that gets to her and that she comes on this show to berate me. So But as far as this one goes, I'm with Jay. I think 3.5 is more than fair, closer to 4, but I just don't know that I could give it like a full blown 4, because that's when you start getting the upper echelon on, especially on our show of horror movies. But as far as a good fun flick with a lot of rewatchability, that's absolutely what this is. So yeah, 2.5 for me. Also, I'm going to go into this from here on out as a prequel to Terminator, because this 100% feels like, especially with her hand at the
It
end showing
does.
her hand, this feels exactly like how the real Terminator would have began, is sex robots that all of a sudden realize they become self-aware, and then they get control of themselves and they turn their aggression up to 100. And next thing you know, John Connor's coming back in the past to get Sarah Connor to try to stop the AI uprising.
Off air, we need to look at what the company was called. I don't remember offhand, but I'm like, what if it's like
Skynet.
What if it's a word scramble?
Cyberdyne's the company.
Yeah,
Skynet,
but what if it's
AI.
we can
Skynet's
unscramble
AI,
the
that's
letters
right.
and form one of those? That'd be
Or
nice Easter
they
egg.
started out as a sex robot company and rebranded to get
Right.
into like butlers and things like that, so that people aren't trying to have sex with all the robots.
There's definitely a version of the cut of Pumping Iron where Arnold's probably a sex robot. So
All right, it's 3.5, TJ.
we're gonna close it out. 3.5. We're clean sweep. I mean,
Hey, that's easy math. I like
and,
that.
and it's a high 3.5, like you said. There's just something that doesn't quite get it to that 4. I don't know what it is. However, having said that, this is infinitely more rewatchable as a 3.5 than a lot of 4 movies are.
True, and even some 5 movies.
Yeah. Right.
All right. That's there you have it. Companion 3.5. That's it for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to wherever you listen to this podcast. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok. We have a Apple Music playlist, which I just added some companion songs on today. And join our group on Facebook, the Horror Sanctum, where me, John, and TJ basically are the only ones who fucking post anything. So,
But people like our post.
people do, and they look at it every now and then. So, all right, that's it. Signing off. I'm Jay with Killen and TJ, and until next time,
Keep it spooky.